broaden people's perspective, to give them, a means to an end sort of thing, or at least, if that's not even the case, some guidance wherever you are in your journey with training your dog, even if it's the very beginning. Training doesn't stop at the stage of just having a Ziploc full of hot dogs. I just don't think that's practical, because the very day you don't have hot dogs on you and your training falls through the ceiling or roof, whatever you want to call it, is your dog really trained? What's going on, guys? Steven here with Alpha Canine. A recent thought that's come to me a few times, particularly this week with clients, and I figured it would be great to put it on a video and to kind of broaden people's perspective, to give them, a means to an end sort of thing, or at least, if that's not even the case, some guidance wherever you are in your journey with training your dog, even if it's the very beginning, to understand that there are progressions to these things. I feel like you need to progress in these things. If you're at a puppy stage or you just rescued a dog, whatever the case is, you have to understand that you have to really expand the mind of your dog to truly live and cohabitate in the lifestyle and social life that you have, because again, you're trying to bring them into your world, around your people, whatever the case is. So I feel like training doesn't stop at the stage of just having a Ziploc full of hot dogs and waving it around in the house, outside your house, while you're at a patio drinking. I just don't think that's practical, because the very day you don't have hot dogs on you and your training falls through the ceiling or roof, whatever you want to call it, is your dog really trained? So I think this is a very important video for you to get a clear understanding of at least where to start and where we should be heading, and what that picture essentially looks like. 3 simple stages where we're going to start, and essentially what we want to see from the dog that becomes very clear. So without further ado, let me just get into it. When you have a dog, puppy, whatever the case is, and let's even just say specifically puppies, because for those that do have puppies and you're new to dog training, right, this is something that, this is good for you to understand. But to have a well-trained dog, the first stage, the first step, okay, so let's call it stage 1 is we are teaching the dog everything. So I like to call it the learning stage. And in the learning stage, you best believe there's going to be a lot of this. All right? There's going to be a lot of reward. And if you've already done your homework and looked around and researched, etc., this is what most will say or understand to be reward-based training, right? I am going to produce reward when you give me great behaviors. If you don't do behaviors that I'm looking for, there's nothing to give, okay? It's as simple as that. I'm just really paraphrasing, making it very simple. But that's basically it. In the first stage of training a dog to be a well-trained dog, it's reward-based training. We are in the learning phase. I gotta show you what I'm looking for from you. Okay, so I'm very patient. I work with the puppy, work with the dog to show them what I'm looking for, and we're also learning each other. Really, I'm learning how they react to things, what things they don't react to, right? And I'm trying to build, as much as I'm building some verbal language and communication with them, I'm also trying to build some body language with them and understand, again, how they react, how they move, how they learn, etc. Okay? So that's the first stage. Second stage, stage 2. And as I mentioned, stage 2, what happens with most people is they stay locked in the stage 1, which is what I just mentioned when it came to Ziploc bags and hot dogs everywhere. And they use it for reactivity. They use it for all types of things that it's ridiculous. And to be honest, sometimes you're not getting the message across to your dog. A lot of people stay in stage 1 for too long, okay? And what I tell my clients when we're done with stage 1 is when you can get proficiency from the dog in whatever said behaviors, like 98% of the time, because they're living creatures, so they're not perfect, but 98% of the time, I ask you to sit, you sit, I know you know sit. I ask you to come and you come to me, I know you know recall. So once I know the dog has a clear understanding of these things, it's time to move on. And you move on to this now. Obligation, okay? We start to move to obligation, all right? Because I know that you know what I'm asking for, now it's an expectation. You can say expectation, you can say obligation, doesn't necessarily matter. But there's some form of expectation that I'm looking for with behaviors, which naturally a lot of us do have. But this is where people get stuck. It's in between here. They get stuck because they say they know their dog knows these things and they can do these things, but they just don't do it. So they'll tell me and call me like, my dog just doesn't listen to me. The reason why they're not listening to you is because you haven't bridged and you haven't made that jump to the next stage of creating obligation. But now, how do you create obligation? How do we continue to get the behaviors we want? And what does obligation or expectations look like for a dog for us to be on the same page? Well, that is generally through some form of pressure. People get weary of this word, but it's normal. See, I give this example a lot to my clients as well. In the beginning with my toddlers, my children, toddlers turn into children. Sure, in the beginning, when you brush your teeth, daddy's gonna give you a cookie. I want you to learn that brushing your teeth, one, is fun, it's good for you, and it's necessary. But when you turn 10, daddy's not giving you a cookie anymore, okay? That's just ridiculous. It's an obligation to brush your teeth, okay? It's very important for you to brush your teeth. Just like it's very important for you to not run through the door and into the road and do as you please, right? Or to not go up to people and other dogs that we do not know. Like, I have expectations and obligation for your safety, for your well-being, for your health. So without me harping too much on that, we need to develop obligation, and we do that through using pressure. If some of you are familiar with operant conditioning, okay, and some of you that are in my online course, you'll know this because there's many lessons on it and free lessons on it, is that this stage right here is your positive reinforcement stage, which is the stage everybody loves hanging out in, but you gotta move on. Stop giving a cookie for your kid going to the toilet. It's time for you to start adding pressure. Start using some negative reinforcement, getting your dog to the next stage. Okay? So that's stage 1 leading to stage 2. Again, I'm not going to go into the in-depths of exactly what this is. I'm going to be producing way more videos on that. But also, again, we do have an online course. There's free courses on this as well in my application that you can go to and watch and learn all about. So if you need to do that, you can do that. But I want to give you the general basis of this stuff, okay? So pressure, it's necessary. Don't hide from it. And then to have a really well-trained dog where we've mixed these beautiful things together and our dog is essentially at that trained stage, because this is the stage where your dog is essentially trained. If you've done it right and correctly with good guidance and good practice, your dog is well trained. Why? Because now they're in the anticipation stage. Anticipation. I did not want to spell that wrong on the internet, that's for sure. Stage 3. What does the anticipation stage look like? What does that even mean? At this point, because your dog knows everything you want them to know, because we've created some obligation, some expectations of it, so now they're solidified in it, we've proofed them on it, they know exactly what needs to happen. Now it's the anticipation stage. So this is the anticipation stage is where the dog is either anticipating reward. They're anticipating pressure. Sorry, it's all ran out there, but that's fine. You get it. Pressure. And then the last thing, which hasn't been put on the board, okay, is that they're anticipating potentially punishment. All right. So they're anticipating. So when let's, for example, we go through the stages. I'm teaching my dog to sit. So I use a lot of reward. I show you to sit, Rover, good boy, bang, paying you every single time. Cool. Rover's like, sitting is fun. That's awesome. But now, Rover, there's times I might not pay you, right? Immediately, maybe. But instead, I'm going to use another form of reinforcement, which would be pressure obligation. See, also in this category here, what people, and actually we'll move into that phase a little bit after, I guess. I'll kind of keep on track here. But at some point, I'm going to add another form of reinforcement, another form of motivation that's going to make you want to sit, right? So I'm going to add pressure, Rover. And when I put pressure on you, I tell you sit. You know what sit means. So Rover then sits. And as he sits, I remove the pressure. Boom, we're good. Okay, cool. So now, and again, and this is just, I'm trying to, go right through it, but there's going to be other accessory things that are occurring with your dog that you're going to develop these marker systems, these behaviors, etc. As I mentioned, if you need help with that, or there's still a little bit of an information gap for you, go to our online courses. But now at this stage, because you know everything and because you know obligation is in play here, you're going to likely do the behaviors that I'm asking you to do because it might get you some form of reward, or I might say the behavior and I'm going to produce pressure. So you're trying to avoid the pressure before it occurs. Or lastly, if you don't do the behavior, it's very possible there's going to be some form of punishment. And when it comes to punishment, I will definitely talk about that in a different video. But as I mentioned, it's all in the online courses. So this is the ultimate stage you want to be at, because now when you talk about anticipation, and especially when you get anticipation in the dog, where the dog is just so tuned into you, because you've been so consistent with communicating, you've been so consistent with your rules, you've been so consistent with a lot of things, the dog's like, okay, I know who you are, I know what you're looking for, I know what you expect, I know these are the potential avenues I will go, I'm going to make a good decision, I'm going to anticipate, and I'm going to do the behavior because I know if I don't do the behavior, one of these three things may occur. And that's where you want to be. That's the pocket you want to be with your dog. Okay? What I'll add to this, just so you have a better understanding, is I'll talk about reward schedule briefly. Okay? Because that's another part that people don't know, that it's going to help you really understand things here too, is that when we are in this stage one, we definitely want to be in a continuous reward schedule, meaning every time I get a response and a behavior from the dog, I am going to pay every single time on repeat, okay? And then when I want to start to build more obligation, because I'm not always going to be negotiating with my dog, I'm not always going to be giving you food all the time, because I'm not going to be that owner that walks around with hot dogs in a Ziploc bag everywhere. Now you're going to be on a variable schedule. Variable schedule. Right? Variable, meaning sometimes you're going to get rewarded, sometimes you may not. Intermittent, right? And maybe sometimes, or every second sit you might get food, right? Every third place or heel I tell you might get food. I'm going to start switching things up, right? So variable, intermittent stage over here, right? And that continues on and follows on from there, right? So very, very important, right? This is the progression of how to build a very strong, well-behaved dog. The problem and what I'm trying to make you understand today is that a lot of you are stuck in this box here and you never progress. And so your dog will not progress because you're constantly negotiating with your dog and you don't start to build a relationship and communication where there is going to be some form of obligation now, right? Stop giving cookies to your 10-year-old child for doing good things. Simple as that. Thanks for watching this. Any questions, let us know in the comments. Please like the video if you enjoyed it. If you didn't like it, tell us anyways. Definitely subscribe. As I mentioned, we'll have links to our online application in the description box, wherever it is. And there, we also have a community page that you can throw in questions, share whatever you got going on training-wise. Again, ask questions, of course. And then, as I mentioned, we do have some online courses on there, free courses. So if you want to take a look at that, you're more than welcome. Thanks for watching. See you at the next one.